House Speaker Nancy Pelosi tonight urging House lawmakers to join her effort to shut down the president's national emergency declaration. She's expected to get the measure to a vote tomorrow. So let's bring in California Republican Devin Nunes, ranking member of the House Intel Committee, for his take. Great to have you with us tonight, sir. What do you make of this vote tomorrow?
I don't think I'd make much of it. This is just more politics. It's going to be interesting to see if the Democrats actually put the votes on the board. I have a funny feeling that they won't get all of the Democrats to vote for it. There'll be a lot who actually do want border security in this country, and you'll get virtually no Republicans.
All right, I want to play a little something from Congressman Gregory Meeks, one of your Democratic colleagues. He says that Democrats have to rein in the president because he's gone completely out of control. Here's what he says.
The American people understand that we have a president that is continually trying to divert from around the Constitution, and, you know, as his friends Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin, that he wants to be, he does not want to follow democracy.
Congressman, your response?
Well, if you go back in time, the facts are that the Obama administration was the one that were very close to Putin. If you remember back during the election, Mitt Romney, the Republican nominee, was talking about Russia being a big problem. Obama actually said publicly that the 1980s called and wanted their foreign policy back. So, I mean, look, it's normally whatever they accuse you of doing. This is actually, you know, they're the ones that actually supported Putin, not the Republicans.
And obviously this week there have been a lot of headlines with your name woven in as former and fired FBI official Andrew McCabe is out supporting a new book and trying to sell it. I want to read a little bit of what he said in his book and give you a chance to explain. He talks about having a meeting with the so-called Gang of Eight, which would have included you at the time, to tell lawmakers about the plan to, or that they had opened this counterintelligence investigation related to the president. He says Nunes was suspected of having surreptitiously been given intelligence by presidential aides during a nighttime rendezvous at the House, information that was then publicized. He talked about he and Rod Rosenstein having a conversation about the fact that you were in the meeting. He says Rod Rosenstein came over and talked to you, came back to him, and then said he's not leaving. What can you tell us about that meeting? I know it's classified, but what's your response?
Well, that's the first thing I would say, is that any conversations that happened in that meeting are classified. And so if those conversations did occur, then the Department of Justice should bring charges against Mr. McCabe. I would also add that McCabe is a guy who's been a proven liar over time. There's no question that what he has in the book is total fake news. It's been disproven time and time again. So not only does he have a book that's actually libeling me and slandering me, it's actually a book that's not even true. And so, you know, you take stuff from fake news, you know, this whole idea that I had went to the White House to do something in the middle of the night. It was bogus all the time. The mainstream media can say it as many times as they want, but the fact of the matter is it never happened. So we're going to continue to fight this out in the public. We'll continue to get the truth out. And if we have to, we'll take it to the courts.
And quickly, do you think he'll face any legal repercussions? Because nearly everyone that's gotten caught up in the Mueller investigation that's faced trouble, it's been for lying to investigators or lying to authorities. You're saying that's what he's doing now.
Yeah, so I mean, he should. I mean, we already know from the Inspector General's report that he had lied. Clearly
candor.
Now, if he's well, okay, I'm not gonna get over the nuance of that. But the bottom line is that even from his book, if this book is true, he should be prosecuted on that, leaking information from the Gang of Eight, and also obstructing a congressional investigation by trying to keep me and others from receiving information. And how much additional information did we not get that we should have gotten at the time? My guess is a whole bunch, because remember, and I'll just make this final point, we still don't have the scope memo of the Mueller investigation, meaning that we don't know what Mueller's actually looking at. My guess is it's the dossier that was paid for by the Democrats that came directly from the Russian government.
Yeah. Congressman, thank you very much for your time tonight. We understand there's no mention of the dossier in the McCabe book. We'll see you soon.
James Comey would have you believe the entire FBI lined up behind him in zombie lockstep over the Hillary Clinton email server investigation. But according to a new report, there was a loud and powerful voice within the department who felt the former Secretary of State was guilty as hell. The Hill is reporting James Baker, then general counsel at the Bureau, held the view until the bitter end that Hillary's actions were, in his words to House investigators, alarming and appalling and basically criminal. Clinton had withheld tens of thousands of emails she had unilaterally deemed personal, although the FBI found several of the 17,000 discarded emails, in fact, were worky-jerky. Yeah, it wasn't the bad categorizing under a suspect system. It was the number of emails brazenly and insecurely transmitted that contained top secret and secret classifications. Lord knows what could have been intercepted by a hostile hacker who could easily penetrate the ramshackle homebrew of our chief diplomat and dingbat. Baker believed Comey's initial summation of Clinton's impropriety as grossly negligent was right, and that met the criminal threshold. But he was finally swayed into submission that she was extremely careless, and he was silenced. Comey got slapped for usurping Loretta Lynch's power by holding that self-aggrandizing press conference July 5th, 2016, for which he was reprimanded by the Inspector General, and he stole the stage because he knew Lynch was compromised, especially after her flirty tarmac meeting with Bill. And Comey was also compromised by the fever of wanting to keep his job under the next President Clinton. Hillary broke the law. Comey broke protocol. And they both lied to Congress, for which several members of the Trump team will see time in the hoosegow. It's nice to know there was at least one bureau skeptic who knew Hillary was guilty as all heck. But it's sad it's taken this long to read about the sworn exchange between James Baker and Congressman John Ratcliffe, showing the investigation could have taken its proper turn. What else is hidden in opaque congressional transactions that might shed light on this dark time? The truly guilty may never be held accountable, but it doesn't mean we should stop asking questions to stop all of it from happening ever again, and that's the memo.
Welcome back. Democrat Beto O'Rourke now joining a growing number of Democrats distancing themselves from the socialists of his party. The Democrats saying no to certain socialist policies now include Sherrod Brown, Tim Ryan, Amy Klobuchar, and Dick Durbin. Even Nancy Pelosi distancing herself from the Green New Deal. Beto O'Rourke now calls himself a capitalist. Let's get her reaction. This is Manhattan Institute senior fellow Nicole Gelinas. Great to see you, Nicole.
Good afternoon, Liz.
Your take on this whole thing. What do you think?
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I think the socialist movement was always going to be something that stayed on the fringe. As you know, AOC got 16,000 votes. This hardly represents the entire country. And I think the mainstream Democrats in the center, whether they're on the center right or the center left, realize that if they want to get the Trump voters who once voted for Obama and then voted for Trump, these are the voters whose minds that they need to change, then you're not going to get there by embracing the democratic socialist movement.
Yeah, this is really get out the primary base for the primary. Yeah. So to your point, do the moderates and the Democrats see that the blue-collar union worker, those women and men, realize that their paychecks come from the private sector? So it's interesting that as a blue-collar union worker shrinks in size, the government union grows in size, and so has socialism. Is there something in tandem there?
Yeah, and again, these are the voters, the blue-collar workers, the construction workers and so forth, who are among the people who voted for Obama, got very upset and frustrated with some of the Democratic policies, then turned around and voted for Trump. And so obviously they weren't happy with the way the Republican Party and the Democratic Party were managing capitalism before Trump came along. Yeah. That's why they voted for Trump, who has a very unorthodox...
Well, there's a risk here for the Democrats, right?
Yes.
So you wrote an article for the New York Post. It's called New York's Politicians Thought They Could Bribe Amazon and Then Insult It. The other question, too, that's been arose from this whole thing, how are workers paid $150,000 a year exploited? Go ahead.
Well, I think, you know, the reason that Amazon left or never came here in the first place was that they were afraid that with a big presence in New York City, all of this attention would come to them on all of how they treat their warehouse workers, everything beyond these headquarters workers. And some of that criticism is fair, some of it is not, but they did not want that spotlight. I don't think the people who were against the deal were upset about the headquarters workers themselves. Some of them are upset about the tax breaks for fair reasons, and some of them just wanted to demagogue against a powerful company.
Let's get back to you know, this whole thing about the socialist push. Even New York Times columnist Paul Krugman put this statement in an op-ed, quote, "There are some real questions about the fiscal side of a progressive agenda. You wonder if that is an indication that the Times is now thinking about it too.
Yeah, and I think there's a competence issue as well, that if you look at the Green New Deal, executing this takes some understanding of how to get projects built and how to get projects done.
But here's the thing, the Green New Deal could be blocked by the Democrats' own green regulatory rules and all of that. I mean, it takes years to get a project off the ground. You saw that with Obama's. It's 200,000 reviews, right, with Obama's stimulus plan, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you strip away a lot of the rhetoric of the Green New Deal, some of what's in there, you could get a lot of people to agree on. Fixing the mass transit system, fixing our infrastructure around the country. But if you look back to the Obama stimulus law, this is 10 years ago now. A lot of that law was the Green New Deal. This was supposed to revitalize the economy, wean us off of fossil fuels and so forth. But it was executed so incompetently that if you look at some of the marquee projects, the California high-speed rail project, 10 years later, the new Democratic governor has had to kill that project. And so if they want to demonstrate that some of these core infrastructure ideas work, they need to think about governing and how to cut some of the costs of these projects.
And there are regulations to get it done, right? It's an irony there, right? Nicole Gelinas, we love your stuff. You're really smart. You're at the Manhattan Institute, right, still?
Thank you, Liz, and likewise.
You're really brilliant writer there. Great to see you, Nicole. Come back soon.